Hi, I'm Jim Covington on behalf of the Illinois State Bar Association, welcoming you to this week's ISBA Statehouse review. Have three issues we would like to talk with you about. The first one is a federal issue. Yesterday, a Senate committee appropriations subcommittee, not committee, a subcommittee, but that's important in the appropriations world in Washington, issued a committee report requesting a 2% or stating they would like a 2% cut in legal services funding for the next fiscal year. This is to be contrasted with the House Appropriations Committee that this summer issued a report suggesting a 26% cut in legal services corporation funding for the 136 legal services offices across the country. Obviously, the 26% would be catastrophic. Nobody's happy with the 2% cut, particularly in light of this week's Census Bureau statistics that were released showing that 1 in 5 Americans now qualify to go to a legal services office, which of course there is no possible way that the legal aid offices can handle that kind of load, but it shows the continuing growth of the potential clients of legal services who can't afford a lawyer, and that the funding for them to provide those services. I would strongly encourage you to write or call your member of Congress now to emphasize how important the funding for legal services is. It is kind of odd anecdotally that we continue to hear all the time that the number one referral to legal services offices are elected members of Congress and elected members to the Statehouse, because when constituents come in with problems that cannot be solved by legislation or they have nowhere else to go, they go to a elected member's office who then refers them to a legal aid office. So you would think the members of Congress and the Statehouse would be the biggest supporters of legal services. The second issue is on the Medicaid eligibility proposed rules by the Health Care and Family Services Agency of the state of Illinois. That went to a JCAR, which is the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules, hearing Tuesday of this week. The proposed rules were not adopted. There will be another meeting of JCAR in October. These rules are very important to seniors and their family about who is eligible for Medicaid and on what transfers can be revoked or Medicaid can come after. It has been in play for about a year and a half to implement the Deficit Reduction Act of 2005 that was passed during the Bush administration. We hope that the next set of proposed rules will be better. The Bar Association and many others oppose the proposed rules that went to hearing on Tuesday. The third and final issue I'd like to talk to you about is veto session in the Statehouse. We have 3 days in October and 3 days in November for the General Assembly in Springfield to consider bills that Governor Quinn has vetoed or mandatorily vetoed. One of the bills that's not been vetoed but is in play is one of our bills. It's Senate Bill 1694 that Senator Wilhelmi of Joliet, who is chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, he sponsored the bill for us. It was a joint effort of us, the Med Society, and the Hospital Association to work on making it easier for deceased family members to get the medical let the surviving family members get the medical records of deceased family members without being forced to open an estate. Under the current law, as interpreted by healthcare lawyers, and I think correctly, they cannot simply do that without an estate being opened, and that seems to be a lot of process just to let a surviving spouse see the medical records of his or her deceased spouse. Under the bill that we have drafted, Senate Bill 1694, it creates a form in the statute so it makes it easy for the healthcare provider to administer. It sets up a priority list following the Healthcare Power of Attorney Act on who can get the records, obviously starting with a surviving spouse. It changes the Healthcare Power of Attorney Act to allow the agent, if given that kind of authority by the principal, to release those medical records after the principal's death, and also puts a protection in there that if the deceased had requested that his or her medical records not be disclosed, then you cannot use this simple form to do that. And we will see you next week.